Hello, my friends. I am getting better with every day that passes. I'll spare you the constant updates on my health. Let's just say I'm getting better and better as time goes by. So I didn't get out today because yesterday kind of totally pooped me, and I relaxed for the entire day. But it was still good because I was able to eat, acted like a human being, wasn't biting anybody's head off, meaning my poor husband, and I had my first cup of coffee in almost a week. So I declare myself to be human again. Don't have my energy level back for sure. I went out to feed the birds, which means walking the length of our house, which is only 70 foot long, putting bird feed on the ground, and walking 70 foot back, and I was a shaky mess. So I'm not back to my energy level yet, but I seem to be done with it. I think I had the flu. So that's the first time in 30 years I've had the flu. But it's packed up and left the building. Now I just need to get my energy back so I can get back to my nasty self. Oh, let's see. Don't have much in the way of tiny moments to share with you today. We got out of the house for just a little bit, but it was at the very end of the day. I caught a couple of pictures of the sun going down. It was a pretty sunset. So I'll stick them on for my tiny moments, but nothing too momentous today. I'm still having a conversation with my new camera. I love the pictures it's taking, and I don't love the videos it's taking. Don't know what's going on there. I'm actually recording this at 60 frames per second to see if it's any better than the 30 was. We'll see. It seemed like the last video I did for you, it thought that this was my face and focused on it the entire time. I noticed it was focused nicely. Hopefully it's not doing the same thing again today. It is nice and round, maybe more round than my face. Not that my face isn't round enough to begin with, but that's what I think it decided to do. So I've tried doing different light, daylight, nighttime, different frame rates, different focusing options, and so far it's defeating me a bit. And by that I mean that, remember, I wasn't all that excited about the thought about getting a new camera because I was okay with the old one. But I did appreciate that Roger, we spend so much time out in nature and taking photographs. He really wanted some nicer quality photographs. He said ours were good for memory, but we had talked about getting some photographs made into prints for the house and even to give friends. And they just were never clear enough. They didn't come out, except with rare exception. This new camera does still photographs wonderfully. Wonderfully. Now, we could say maybe it was meant to be a camera and not a video camera, but that's not how it was marketed. So that's what doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, some of it is my ignorance, point and shoot kind of person. The original camera I did my videos with, I've forgotten what they were called. Were they flip cameras? They were just little vloggy kinds of things. No, it wasn't the vloggy, but it was a very similar to that. It actually came out before that. That's my level of expertise when it comes to anything. So we'll see. I don't want to have to end up using two cameras, but maybe it's going to come to that. I don't know. Technology and me, not a good friend. And then there's the possibility it's the editor that I use, because I do use a free editor that's done well by me on the old videos. But it could be that it's not handling the higher quality videos. Well, if I was reluctant enough to buy the new camera, you can bet I'm reluctant enough to buy a video editing software package. And some of that frustration is dealing with all of it when I probably wasn't feeling myself and was a little bit grumpy to begin with. But all is good. It was a good day. I was able to use the computer without getting confused. That proved that the fever's gone. I woke up early this morning, laid in bed, and went, I am so done with sleeping. which is what I've done for an entire week. So much so I started having back problems because I was in bed all the time. I haven't been in bed that long, probably since somewhere in my 30s. So I announced to the world this morning, I'm done with this sleeping thing. I'm over it. Got up early and had a good day. I didn't go to church though, so I'm sad about that. But I didn't go to church because I really want to be sure I'm really done with this before I go to a building full of senior citizens, or at least a good number of us, my age and older. I want to make sure it was gone. So nothing exciting has been happening. I have not been journaling. I promised myself to get back to that tomorrow. If I had been journaling this past week, it would have been barf with a square box next to it, which would get checked, and then barf with a square box next to it, which would have been checked. I was going to go nowhere fast on that journal, if you know what I mean. My house is totally out of control, a week away from it. Hubs is not a housekeeper. He's not a mess maker. I'm grateful for that. But I'm the keeper of the hearth in our relationship. As much because I have my own standards as that Roger's not willing to help. He is, but the queen has her set of rules and standards when it comes to the house. So I'm looking forward to settling back into the mundane tasks of the day and being able to do things that require thinking and being alert. Mostly I want to take a nice long walk. I really, really missed taking a walk. The only other thing I can think of that I wanted to talk about in this vlog is I get questions from folks, either in emails, sometimes in comments to my videos. And I'm going to make part of my videos regularly a little section called Ask Annie. Forgive me for being a little silly there, but that is how I'm going to introduce it. For the kinds of things that people ask me that aren't worth a video because they just aren't long enough to be video, or maybe just not interesting enough to be something that too many people in the wider community would be interested in. So if you want to enter into the spirit of that, if you have questions you want to ask me, and really they can be about anything. They can be about my practice. I don't not talk about my practice in my vlog because it's very much a part of me. But it can be about everything and anything that enters your mind that you want to ask me. It encourages me to remember that this vlogging experience is an exchange. It's not just me yakking at a camera, it's communication and conversation. For instance, here's the Ask Annie. For this time. The question was two-part. Oh, what's your favorite thing about living in a tiny house? Now, the first thing is, it's not tiny house by the tiny house movement standards. So I didn't want to mislead anybody. I call it my wee house or my tiny house because it's, less than a quarter the size of our old house. If I have my math right in my head, and who knows if I do. Off the top of my head, I don't know the square footage of our home, so I'm going to add it in here. Now that doesn't include the porch. The porch is our living room space and our dining room, and also this being the dining room, my desk, which is the dining room table. So that's a little bit of add-on, and that is about 12 foot by 30 foot. So it's a good-sized room, this add-on. So the question was, what's your favorite thing about living in a tiny house? Two things tied for that. The first is, I can clean floor to ceiling, wall to wall, every counter, every surface, the entire length of the house in a couple of hours. So I don't spend much time in a week housekeeping. In my retirement years, I've got other things I want to do with my time, and they have absolutely nothing to do with cleaning house. I like taking care of house. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike cleaning house. But the answer to the question, what do you like best about being in a tiny house? No mess, no fuss. It's easy to take care of. And the thing that ties with that is, in our particular case, no house maintenance. It's a vinyl sided covering. It sits on stones. There's no grass to mow. No trimming, no bushes. Oh yeah, several times a year, there are buckets and buckets and buckets. I'm talking 55-gallon drums that we have to remove of leaves and pine needles for safety's sake, and also for moisture, so that there's not too much mold potential around the house. It also keeps things like snakes from getting real comfortable in the leaves around the house and then making their way up into the house. So the interior and the exterior maintenance combined. My favorite thing about living in a tiny house. Well, you might guess that the second part of that very same question was, what's your least favorite thing about living in a tiny house? I'm somebody who, until I married Roger, so going on 11 years ago now, didn't have a TV. Didn't want a TV, didn't miss a TV, or anything that had to do with a TV. Now, mind you, even before you could watch TV shows on the computer if you wanted to, I didn't have a TV. Just never enjoyed them. Well, that's not part of Roger's lifestyle, and part of his dowry when we married was the purchase of a big TV, which I swear has been on every moment of our lives since. No, that's not true. The man does sleep sometimes. But when you're someone who cannot stand anything about a TV, and being around a TV literally makes you a nervous wreck. And in a tiny space where there's a shared living space, a TV gets on my nerves. Oh, not in a way that matters in the larger sense of everything. In the matter of me just having to deal with the fact that it's part of my life. Not that I would have one otherwise, but it's a very important part of Roger's life. He and his entire family are TV people. And I'm not saying I don't ever watch anything on TV. There's two things I watch on TV, actually. I'm a big fan of The Voice and Big Bang Theory. There are two things I like to watch on television. Oh, things that are nature shows and documentaries and things like that interest me. And I don't mean that in the sense I'm some kind of egghead who likes the highbrow TV shows. I just don't have the patience to wait through commercials to watch TV with Roger generally. So I put headphones on, listen to music. But my home in the time before Roger, which probably would have irritated him as much as the TV irritates me, there was music 24 hours a day, day and night, playing in my house. So in a small space where you're really only ever going to be 10 or 15 feet away from the one and only TV that we do have, not ideal for me, but not impossible to deal with. The computer and a headset with music playing works just fine. But even when I go back to the back bedroom to meditate or to do a ritual, I can hear that TV. You cannot get away from it. And in the big house, I was spoiled because I could go to the other end of my house and wouldn't have heard the TV that Roger had on in the other rooms. So the TV in a small space, there's no other noise that comes with my beloved that bothers me in the slightest. And I don't begrudge him his TV noise. I appreciate the fact that the world in general likes television sets and TV shows. That answers the question. Tiny house. And what I like about it the best and what I dislike about it. Small things, really, gave me a chance to think about. I never would have known we could have downsized to something this small. I would have never known I could give up my stuff. I would have never known I could fit myself energetically into a small space. And I love this house. But it's okay admitting a couple things are less than perfect. So anyway, the whole time I've been talking to you, I've been playing with pine straw. You know what I mean? See if it'll focus on that. This, where we live, is the bane of our existence. Every time you come in from outside, you manage to bring it in with you on your clothes or in your hair or in your shoes. Always keep an eye on the ground because Ernie likes to chew on it, which is not good. You know, French bulldogs don't have 2 teeth that meet, and it doesn't need to get down to his stomach or his intestines. So I found this on the floor before I started recording for you. I didn't even know you called this pine straw before we moved here. Yes, we're surrounded by a world that was alien 3 years ago, is now so much home. But we're always on the prowl here in our house to make sure there aren't any pieces of pine straw. The other thing interesting about living here is all of our shoes, summertime and wintertime shoes, which for me means flip-flops for 3/4 of the year and clogs the other part of the year, have to have really, really thick soles on them. Crocs work very well because our yard is rocks. And you have to have a really good sole on the bottom of your shoe. Why did I think to even mention that silly little trivia point to you? Oh, because someone else had asked me. Did I mention I lived on stones? And could I go barefoot? No. In the house, yes. I never have shoes on. But you put on shoes to go outside here. Oh, because of the stones and because of the ants and because of the denizens of the woods that walk around the stones. We don't need to be bit or stung. Plus, those stones are not comfortable to walk on. You don't ever want to go outside without something on your feet. So that was my rambly video for the day. But please do, if you have questions you want to ask me, I don't care what it's about, whether it's about beliefs or practices, or whether it is about something in my life, something you want to share that you'd like to bring up as a topic for a discussion, please do. I find myself more willing in these videos with a smaller audience to speak more openly and freely. How about that? All these years of being on YouTube and having a crap ton of subscribers, I think I have 9,000. Do you really believe 9,000? Wow. But that doesn't mean I get 9,000 views. I get 300 or 400 on a good video. The vlogs, not so much. Low hundreds usually. The vlogs feel like going back to my early days on YouTube, where I had a shorter shorter list. Less people subscribed to me, and in some ways it felt more comfortable. So I think it could be interesting, the kinds of things you could ask me that I would address here in the vlogs that I wouldn't address necessarily elsewhere. If there's something that intrigued me to do a full-length video, I would. But a lot of them are going to be something I want to talk about here. Notice I never in my vlogs list anything about what's going to be discussed in them, because I did debate that. But you know what? My day is not so interesting that I can list what's going to be in a vlog. It is what it is. But the nature of it, the conversational nature of it, led me, when I started getting questions people were asking, and I would answer them directly to them, and I realized probably some other people might be interested in some of these answers, to think about the Ask Annie. Part of some of my vlogs to come. That's it for today. I pronounce happily it's a very good day. Except for lack of energy, it appears Annie is back.